client is basically a drinks company based in Wales called Elan Valley. Now, Elan Valley is a place. So the first thing that I would suggest that you do is to take a look at some of the images just on Google of what is there in Elan Valley and what the area is known from, whether that is landmarks or products that they produce as a region. So what they're looking for is they're going to start making tonic water. So, but not just ordinary tonic water, botanically infused tonic water. So they are a small, high-end, expensive, boutique-style drinks company, and they specialise normally in creating gins, so flavoured gins, but they want to have tonic water now that goes with it, so that they can increase their product range and obviously attract not just drinkers of alcoholic products, but also non-alcoholic sort of drinkers. So every bottle that they create is unique and customizable because they actually pick ingredients from the local hedgerows and flowers to infuse the tonic water with. So it really is a magical botanical experience that they want to create. So because the tonic water is high-end and expensive and bespoke, they're going to attract a certain type of customer. So think about the type of person that would buy this tonic water and what is going to appeal to them. They may be connoisseurs of gins or vodkas. They may just like buying bottles that are unique and look different, that they're able to offer their friends or their guests if they're at events or if they've got people coming into their home. So there are a couple of things that we need you to start looking at. So first of all, we want you to research into the area, what comes out of the area. Are there any things, any landmarks in the area that could influence the design of what's created? So the requirements are a logo. So you need to come up with a logo for this tonic water and a strap line. Then you need to create an advert. So design an advert to basically attract this audience that we're talking about. We need you to look at the design of a bottle. We don't want you to create a design, we just want you to look for ideas for the design of a bottle. And then also what label would go on that bottle, bearing in mind what your logo looks like and what your advert looks like. Then the label on the bottle will also need to look consistent and of the same sort of theme. And then a presentation box to put it in, because you know, like sometimes you see sort of ports and expensive drinks presented in boxes. Champagne often is presented in boxes, so they want to put their tonic water into boxes. The next thing you'll need to look at is the competitors in the area. So the competitors, there'll be more, but just to give you some examples, so the competitors in the tonic water industry are Fever Tree, Schweppes, Fentimans, and the London Essence Company. And we'll give you this brief anyway, so you don't need to remember all these things. But remember that you can also take inspiration from the gin and vodka market. So look at, so there's some Welsh gins, Aber Falls, there's one called Gin Mare, there's one called In the Welsh Wind. Have a little look at those. And then vodkas, look at Absolute, the way that that bottle is presented. AU Vodka in the gold presentation, look at a distinct brand. Grey Goose, and of course Smirnoff. So have a little look at the way that other brands present their bottles. Now this is not an alcoholic bottle, remember, it is a tonic water, so it may have a slightly different feel to their gins, but it's the tonic water that we are looking to create a brand for and all these elements. Now you're going to only have the time that you would normally spend with Chris, which I believe is 2 hours per week, Chris, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there isn't a huge amount of time
the industry would look like,
yeah.
and we also liked the challenges it has caused, and it brought us all together closer as a group. Our logo was chosen by feedback given last time. It's very plain and basic in the first one, so we decided to do a forms presentation, not a forms presentation, sorry, a Microsoft form, and we got feedback from it from our target audience, and we worked out that our target audience was from women's ages 20 plus, usually, and they're middle to higher class. So we decided to make our logo have this crown-esque type look to it, and as you can see, we're comparing them on the board.
With the bottle design, we originally wanted to go for a really cylindrical feel, which is the one on the left. But after looking into our competitors, doing research, we found out that making our bottle stand out a bit more with having a more intricate details on it, it would make the brand stand out more and make it stand out on the shelves, and it would make the customers want to buy it because it looks, you can keep the bottle afterwards. It's not something that's plain. It's something that can stand out. You can use it as decoration, put lights in it, and it's just a nice looking bottle in general.
Agreed. I really like that.
This was then the final design of the bottle. Unfortunately, there was an error with Photoshop, so we didn't end up having a copy of just the final bottle, so that's cropped out from the advert that we made. But that is basically, it's the same thing, it just has those bolder outlines on it from the ads left over. But that's the initial design we did, and then the revised version, which has the double-sided label at the back. The idea being that we could have, because there is, that image was drawn by me, and we use it as artwork on the box as well. The idea we had was to have the label be two-sided, so that on one side obviously you have the ingredients and things like that, and on the other side you can see through the water into the image.
So the front of the bottle would be clear with the branding on it, and the
and
back
then you have
of the
the
bottle
image there.
would have the sort of the landscape. Yeah, okay, right.
And again, the cap was it was mostly just because we figured that, particularly with the tonic bottle, it's quite often going to be open and closed a lot, so a screw cap, I know that one isn't there, a screw cap, it was just the closest image we could find to it in either plastic or metallic screw cap would be the practical to have.
Okay.
So then the box, then we did two different designs looking at a bunch of different things. Again, we have more research available in the Miro as well. We have a bottle which is down on the bottom right there, which is for a singular bottle, and obviously the one here on the left is for 6 bottles. Again, both have the same artwork that I mentioned earlier that's on the back of the bottle, with the branding as well. The idea with this is that when I looked into the existing advert campaigns and adverts for other competitors to us, a lot of the bottles were they all had a very similar feel to them. So the idea with having the hand-drawn aesthetic there was to give the brand more personality, try and convince the audience that there is some kind of personal connection to the brand and make it feel more like it has actual character to it, because a lot of the brands that we saw were very sort of generic. They all had a very similar theme. A lot of them were quite iconic and did stand out in their own ways, but they all did keep with this theme. So whilst trying not to break too far away from existing brands, we tried to give it a bit more personality, which is where we will be drawing into.
Can I just build on your point as well? With the flavours of the tonic water, as you can see on the 6th bottle, you can kind of, I don't know if you can make it out on the board, there's elderflower and blackberries, so whatever flavour you'd get then would also be on their side.
Okay.
Like that.
This is the actual advert. That would go on social media, because it would kind of fit with our target audience. And basic idea was to have logo, an example of how it can be served, and then kind of interpret, the sort of surrounding kind of areas of where the distillery is, to give it more natural and from the botanical kind of side of the product.
Again, with the black lines across the bottle and then also the arrow pointing towards the strap line, was the idea again was to try and have a sort of personal feel to it, as if it had been made and it had an actual personality to it. It was again with the advert there. More to be spoken about through the Miro, because we looked into the different competitors we had and there are some examples here, but again that's more spoken about through the research we did on Miro. And then I wrote about this because I wasn't sure how else to say it, and to summarise, so the design aims to provide a high quality aesthetic and not drift too far away from existing branding, but also to give something new and interesting and personal, so that it has a connection to the Elan Valley itself and the beautiful scenery that is there. Try and, rather than just having another bottle that has its name, try and draw a connection to it. And that's what we were aiming to do with our version of the bottle, packaging and advert.
It's quite a different style, isn't it, to those that we've seen. I like the way that the sort of like the dam sort of bridge sort of feel is now converted into a crown. We'd said, didn't we, when we last met, well, that's a bit like a crown. Is there anything that you can do with that? So yeah, it's good to see that you've taken that, and I think that does match, you're quite right, with the sort of target audience. I think that you're right in terms of, like, you know, being able to keep the bottle afterwards is a nice thought, isn't it? You know, and one thing I would say about the bottle design is just be careful with colour contrast.
Yeah.
So, you know, is a black label on a clear bottle going to stand out enough on the shelves as well?
We did also consider this, which is why we have the gold one here. We did also experiment with a few other colours, but we decided that the gold one would probably stand out the most. But at this point, we had the image with the black label. We didn't have time to
It's just got to be really careful with colour contrast when you're designing, because you know you want your product to stand out on the shelves. I think with the advert, I think you were right to sort of change that. I like the placement of the bottle and the glass. I like the fact that you're suggesting the location in the background, and it's on a sort of like a picnic or an outdoor sort of table. So I think that the focus is right, and I think that the placement is correct. I like the sketches be quite nice if they were in white. Would it have stood out a bit more in white rather than black? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so go to your Miro board, or maybe not the Miro board, the WordPress site, and go to the top, week one, up again, just before that production log. There, that probably, as much as I love the simplicity of the direction you've gone with that background, that would have worked better. And the reason I say that is because of the level of detail in that and the depth of colour. So you pop a white logo, or that crown over the top of that, and all of a sudden everything just pops. So whilst I love the fields, that is Elan Valley for me. The other one is just fields with a bit of water, which depicts the Elan Valley if you know it, but if you don't, that for me, that could have been the base for all of these slides.
Right, because the centre is the actual dam.
And you've got there's a really lovely effect being put on that.
Yeah, what did you do with that?
We were experimenting with like
filters,
different filters on it.
So on that, I discovered that you can apply multiple filters to the same image. So that is after adding 3 different filters and messing with those settings
so
on
all of a sudden you've got a vector.
Yeah.
You've got something that you can scale up to the size of the moon.
Yeah.
That is not a photograph, but there is something really lovely about that. And that little tiny roof just pops, you know? So that's something to bear in mind. Nothing wrong with what you've done at all. I just think that maybe
you might have missed something that would have been really strong, I think. But what you've designed in terms of the brand, as Rhian said, putting it on over the top of that, is still going to work.
You know, you've got that dark little area down on the right corner.
Yeah, that would be nice to put the logo.
Just a little crown down there. You can be subtle there because you've got the Elan Valley in the background. So that was the first thing. Loved the bottle. I love that intricacy on the bottle. We haven't had that yet from anyone. And I can imagine sticking a candle in that after I finished.
Lights.
Really love it. All lights. Yeah.
Stops, please.
You come up with the strap line. Where's Your Spirit Gone?
I did.
Love that.
Yeah, it's really playful, and I like
really-
and it works really, really well with the sketchy sort of like, I like the little like arrow thing, and you can imagine it sort of like, you know, like a little animation going on social media or even on sort of screen. I think that would work really well.
I really liked it, and you know, Where's Your Spirit Gone? It can just disappear, it can just fade into the valley. It's really nice, I really like that. I think that you could look at something called Mr. Mockup. I've told every group about this. It's literally a free piece of software. Download a PSD file and you can wrap any piece of your artwork around it.
We found a similar site, which is where we did the first bottle, but the biggest issue with using that, I wanted to try and avoid using it as much as I could, purely because it was free, it has the watermarks.
They're a bit naff, and they with those watermarks. But I think because you've displayed it so small, you can't really see the watermark.
And with the second bottle, when we had the logo, I just went into Photoshop and did it in through there because I at this point had more time to do that. So I decided rather than settling for something that has the watermark and marks, I'll try and have as much control over it as I can.
Cool. So yeah, mock-ups, and I think that your pitch opener was banging. You were really honest about it. You've never heard of the Elan Valley, and that you came together as a group. And that's what, when you're selling a story to someone, they want to know how you've gelled, because they will come across. So that open liner was brilliant, and I really like the first frame on that as well.
Yeah, you can't kid a kidder, that's what we say. So if you don't know anything about something, be honest. So that you've looked into it, you may not have got everything about the area or everything about, you know, sort of like the region or the products or the plants or whatever that are growing there, but you've tried to understand as much as you possibly can. Just be honest.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say about the slide, be careful of order. We've said this to a couple of groups.
Yeah.
Put your research up first. Tell us this story, lead us into this is the final logo based on all the research that we did. This is, you know, the competitors need to have gone right up front, you know, as part of your research. Just move the order around a bit, because you know, it just makes more sense logically.
What's interesting is when we were in our notes, we had it in the order, we just didn't adjust the PowerPoint to match it.
That's fine.
And then the fact that you actually, you know, did sort of like a little bit of a survey, didn't you, and asked people as well. Would have been interesting to sort of maybe pull out a couple of those things that you found out.
We did take screenshots of the survey, but we just couldn't find them again afterwards for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, that's one thing. Don't tell anyone if you've lost stuff.
That's what I was thinking.
I was like,
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I did think that as soon as I said it. I just kind of
not there.
Love your honesty, just don't bother.
Yeah.
No one needs to know. No. But what I was going to say is that first frame, literally as that first PowerPoint slide, if you had that illustration on the back of there, all of a sudden you've solved it.
I think that was what you did originally, but we didn't think of adjusting the colours of it because it was way too vibrant and it just didn't match.
Yeah. It's great.
Although,
I think
on both occasions it would be blurred, so you wouldn't like properly see everything, but you could tell that it's a down. So maybe it would work.
Nice
job. Done really well. Yeah. I mean, there's an opportunity here, Chris, isn't there, to sort of maybe take this further or use the process that we've just gone through and apply it to other projects that you work on, you know, in college. So, you know, this is the way that we would approach something, you know, in the commercial world, and now you know what that process is, what to do in which order, how to present, how, you know, like each one of you plays an important role in the work, but also in the presentation as well. So, you know, the fact that you've sort of worked together and bonded sort of as a team, I think, and have produced this, you know, is really good. So you should be really proud of yourself.
I think I've worked well as a team player, but I could also improve in my future projects. I love to give my own ideas to my team, and I listen to my team's ideas and take everybody's thoughts into account. I try to get my work done by deadlines in my groups, and I do the work my best ability. But because of other work and other factors, I believe that for this project I did not do my part to the ability I know I could do. However, where I have acted as good as a team player is when I was creating the bottle designs, giving my ideas to the group and wanting to hear their feedback, and what my team think is the best and what we could change. I have also done research that was placed in the Miro board and discussed as a team. If a team member was struggling on what to do, or if I had a moment of free time, I would try to explain what we were doing and what they could do to be a part of the team. Personally lacking time management and trying to balance other workloads and deadlines with others, I believe I can work over that skill of organisation and time management. I feel like I'd be a much better team player, not just in the Elan Valley Project, but every other team project in the future. My role in the Elan Valley Project was to design a bottle as well as other creative aspects and research. I believe I did good at my role as a creative hand as I made many bottle designs for our team and took everybody's words into account. But I could have helped other aspects of the project, like more of the research and other designs, where help may have been needed.